Let's get straight to it. I'm your host, Katie Cowan, and for episode 50 of the Creative Boom podcast, my guest is Stacie Woolsey. Stacie is the founder of Make Your Own Masters, an alternative postgraduate learning experiment which she began several years ago to address the lack of access and diversity within the creative industries and art and design education. It was something she started just for herself in 2017, so she was able to gain the skills, experience and contacts she felt she needed to progress in her career, but without having to study a master's or get into any further debt. Today, she calls herself an anthropological future designer and has worked with some of the world's leading brands and institutions, including Somerset House, BBC and Science Gallery London, to deliver projects that she describes as future-facing and always socially focused. She's also an artist in residence at Selfridges and a visiting lecturer at Kingston School of Art, as well as a freelance design researcher. Stacie is usually based in London, but is currently back home in Doncaster, where she grew up. In this episode, we discuss the problems with higher education and why things might need to change. We talk of Doncaster moving to the big city and how a strong family and network back home helped her to have confidence and spot opportunities. We also chat about unusual job titles and the power of shaping our own careers however we want. So if you like a rebel with a cause and you're looking to progress in your own life and work, Stacie is just the inspiration you need this Monday morning. Before my chat with Stacie, I'd love to thank our sponsor for Season 2 of the Creative Boom podcast. Shillington is the original graphic design bootcamp that helps students achieve award-winning portfolios and land incredible jobs in as little as 3 months. We'll be hearing from someone from Shillington later in the show for some career advice. But for now, here's my chat with Stacie. Hi Stacie, welcome to the Creative Boom podcast.
Hi, hello.
Hello, yeah. I apologise profusely for the state of my clothes this morning and the fact that I haven't yet showered, but I'm decorating my house.
The joys of a podcast, though.
Oh, I know.
Does us all a favour.
Get away with this. Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's so lovely to have you on because you've been in the news loads over the last couple of years, and your name keeps popping up, and it's all because of this wonderful thing that you did. You kind of made your own masters, and now you're doing this course for other people. How did that come about?
Oh, it's a long old tale. It all kind of started 2017, maybe. Right. I'd graduated uni. I had a degree in graphic design, but I'm not a graphic designer. If anything, I'm a bad graphic designer. But I kind of left uni with all this portfolio full of kind of like ideas and mini inventions and innovations, and kind of then went into the real world of work and realised that actually I didn't really fit anywhere right. Commercially. I was working in a startup making like 3D lollipops of people's faces. I was doing advertising internships, and I just couldn't fit in. I just really kind of just didn't engage with it. And also like the pressures of interning when you're kind of going 3 months patches of work and trying to live in London and pay rent. And I think I'd done like a year of just kind of bouncing around and just kind of had enough and was kind of ready to like take control of it all for myself a bit. And I think I was just frustrated, and I was really ready to kind of do something new and really figure out what it was that I wanted to be doing. So I think the most obvious step for most people is to go and do an MA. Yeah. And kind of go back to learning. You kind of already got such a breadth of knowledge, but then it's a bit more kind of indulgent in a sense, but much more about kind of figuring out your own niche. So I started to look at all the different courses and institutions. And then I think the kind of reality hit that actually financially MAs aren't built up the same as BAs are. And with all the naivety in the world, I think I just thought that I'd just acquire a lot more debt because because I know I've got this student loan debt, but I've never actually seen it. So I thought I'll just add to that. I'll sort it out another day. But then I realised that it actually wasn't like that. If I wasn't able to afford to pay for the course, and I was quoted at one point £40,000 to kind of pay for the fees, live in London and be able to study. And I've no idea how to make that kind of money. So the reality was that if I didn't have the money, I wasn't going. But I'd reached this point where I just wasn't going back to the interning. And I just kind of figured, well, if I've put this time aside and if I've really kind of decided that I'm going to invest back into myself, then why not do that anyway? And if I can't kind of afford to pay for this MA yet, I'm calling myself a designer and someone that tackles problems and kind of really wanted to get into more of that innovation stuff, then why not guinea pig myself first and start as I mean to go on? So that was the logic. The reality was very different. The reality was a lot less straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, that it does sound like, I mean, 40 grand is like a housing deposit, isn't it, basically?
Yeah, it's huge. I always said to my friends, like, I can't even count that high, never mind collection of pounds. It just wasn't going to happen.
Well, you did you grow up in Leeds, was it?
Doncaster.
Were you near Leeds? Doncaster, right,
yeah,
okay.
Good old Donny.
Yeah, Donny. Good night out.
Great night out, yeah. That's all anyone has to say about it.
Well, that's all I know about it, actually, if I'm truly honest. But great people. I remember having a really good time there.
Yeah, if I'm honest, there's actually not much else either. We've really not got that much going for us, but we try our best.
So was Leeds kind of like the university you always had in your mind that you would go to? Because you started off there, didn't you? You went to the College of Art there, and
do you know, I'd not ever really planned it. I'd never even known anyone that had ever gone to uni. I just knew that I was going. I didn't know which one, where, but I remember always being set that I was gonna go. Yeah. And then after finishing sixth form, I went to Leeds to do the foundation. And that was like the first time I think I'd ever really like been in a city. It was such like a culture shock in a way, and it's only 40 minutes up the road, but Donny is such a different place compared to that. And that was kind of like my first bit of freedom, and I loved it. I had one of like the best years ever at Leeds. And then from there, jumped straight to Kingston. It felt like, it was a really nice kind of bridging gap.
Yeah, definitely, because London's a completely different fish, isn't it? And you probably prepared yourself for the debt that was inevitable from going to Kingston in London. But and then so I suppose what we were talking about before, to come out of that and graduate and find yourself in this, scenario, I kind of need a bit more help and sort of figuring out what it is that is my calling, I guess. And then sort of saying, oh gosh, right, I've got to add X amount on top of that already. I mean, it's just not realistic for most of us.
No, and I think without sounding kind of super cynical, the reality is that without family support, it's just not possible. I mean, there are scholarships, don't get me wrong, but they're very much few and far between. And I almost got the impression that it just wasn't even worth going for it. And I mean, my family, they have no idea what I do, to be fair, but they're very, very supportive of whatever it is I'm doing. But in terms of money and finance, that was never, ever going to be an option. Yeah. And I kind of like had the realization of, honestly, naivety is the key word in all of this. I really just thought that it was 2019. If you want to go and get an education, we live in the UK, you can get an education. I really did believe it. And then I think it was just a bit of a rude awakening of actually, I had my rose-tinted glasses on, I think.
Well, I mean, it's not naive, I don't think, because up until, very recently, you could get free higher education. I mean, I got a grant and didn't have to pay for my course at all, because that was just the era. My dad went to university at the same time as me. He went back and retrained. So my family's income wasn't high enough. So he qualified for me to go. So we were very lucky. And it just kicked in, I think, the year I left. And then everybody had to sort of take student loans. My student loan, which I still took and spent on beer and cheeseburgers and came out with a dress size to show for it, was, I think it was about $6,500. And so we were very, very lucky, but it never crossed my mind to study a master's. I did a vocational degree in journalism and then ended up going down that route. So, was quite lucky really in the end. But for somebody such as yourself, when, education does up to a point help you. I mean, they say this about master's degrees, don't they? They say that it's a way of finding your kind of creative calling, your passion, and it will really sort of help you do that. But you did that all by yourself and then got a ton of media publicity at the end of it all, and then created the course for everybody else to follow. I mean, that's amazing.
I think the real luxury with what a master's is the time. I don't know, like, whenever would you give yourself that time to just do work or do projects or do things for yourself? And it seems really sensible and really logical to do it within an institution or within, those kind of parameters of what is a course. That feels like you're not just floating, or you're not just kind of making up excuses as to why you don't have a real job. But you put a name and an institution behind it, and everyone kind of nods along and respects what you're doing. But in a sense, I was giving myself that same time and same kind of investment in myself, but just without the safety net. And don't get me wrong, the amount of conversations I've had in pubs or with my granddad or with friends' parents as to like, so you're doing a master's, but you're not doing a real one, and you're not working, but you are working. And I was like, yeah, I'm confused as well, but honestly, I've got a feeling it's going to work out.
Oh, you mentioned your granddad then. Are you quite close?
Yeah, he has no idea what's going on. He just knows that I was given a residency in Somerset House.
Yeah. And
whenever anyone asks like how I'm doing or how I'm getting on, he was like, oh, she's the Queen of Somerset House now, That's all. That's the only kind of job title I've got, the Queen of Somerset House.
Oh.
I don't think Somerset House knows, so don't tell them.
Oh, right. Okay, fine. No, your secret is safe with me. So what did your granddad do for a living when he was working?
Was a miner, and a very, very proud one. It's all he talks about, actually. He needs some new material, but there's hundreds
he's got
of
some stories, though. Gosh.
He has, yeah.
When you look back in our family tree, we're very similar, lots of miners. It was the way it was, wasn't it? I bet they think I bet he thinks it's amazing that you do something creative for a living. Yeah,
I actually don't know if he does, because I think it's just... What used to really, really baffle him was that my mum would be like, oh, she's working really hard and all of this, but I wasn't getting paid. Yeah. And he just could not wrap his head around working without getting paid. And I think in a set, like, it was a bit of a joke to him that, like, and he was just like, oh, you'll never not be a student. And I was like, I will one day. I was like, I'm playing the long game. But I ended up doing a project about it's like a speculative project about what could happen if the mining industry there was a resurgence in it and this kind of future of a mining town. And I got all the stories relived again. And I ended up doing these, writing these scripts around kind of like what would happen and all the different uses for this coal as almost like a super material. And I got him to be the voice actor for it.
Oh, wow.
And they eventually got commissioned by the BBC and the ICA. So he ended up being put on the radio. He's no idea what he says in these scripts, because they're all about kind of these really fictional stories. Yeah. But all he knows is that he's famous now. And
but he loves that.
he absolutely loves it.
What's his name?
George, but famously referred to as Wig.
Wig?
Yeah. It's so funny. You know, when you start, all my life it's just been Grandad Wig. And then when you start to think, like, you say that to other people and they're like, that is odd. And you're like, yeah, maybe that is a bit odd. Apparently when he was young, he had really jet black, thick hair. So it always looked like he was wearing a wig.
Oh,
we're not very creative with our nicknames up here, actually.
Well, we're not, are we? I love nicknames. I find them fascinating. My husband's nickname is Horse, which really kind of raised the eyebrows of most of the women who live in this street when they found out. And I was like, no, it's not for that reason. Not that isn't. But yeah, let's not go there. It's another story. But do you still have? Because if you come from a small town like Doncaster, you've still got to have that strong tie with the mates you grew up with, the family. Do you have a nickname that you go by back home?
I mean, I'm back here now because of COVID and everything.
Oh,
I retreated north.
Yeah.
And my friends from London are like, you know, if I ring them and we'll be talking and they'll be like, you're in the north, aren't you? And I'm like, how do you know? They're like, your accent, it just dials up to 100.
It's like that Peter Kay joke, isn't it? He said, you know, everybody goes to London, they lose their northern accent, and they're like, oh yes, I had a beautiful day, wonderful, and then they have a pint and they're like, by heck, did I need that?
The twang comes back out.
Yeah,
but I can't,
weird,
in terms
isn't
of
it?
nicknames, I can't think. There's been, I mean, there's Moonhead, and I used to get called
Moonhead?
because I got a really round head. Again, not
Oh,
creative.
for goodness sake, that's so cruel.
There was also for a while netball. This is such a stupid story, but one of the, like, you know, when you're at school and you're playing netball,
Yeah.
a girl once caught my head instead of the ball. Because my head is round, I didn't live that down for a while.
Oh my goodness me, kids are cruel, aren't they? The banter that we give each other. So you used to play netball?
No,
Brilliant.
No, I didn't.
No, hated
I'm really
it.
bad
Did you
at
hate
all
PE?
that stuff. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah, my PE teacher once said to me that I was her favourite student that was the worst at sport.
And why were you her favourite then in that case? Was because you always turned up?
Because I used to umpire, but just it stupidly.
Oh.
There was lots of jokes.
You'd have hated me. I was goal attack, always winning, or always got picked
competitive
second.
people, and we didn't get on because I just didn't take anything seriously.
Oh, I suppose I used to love PE because it was the only time the nasty girls in my school would leave me alone and actually make me feel like I was included because I was good at sport.
Because you were good at it, yeah.
Yeah, and the rest of the time they were just witches. Anyway, so moving on, I would have called you Woolster or something like that.
Walrus, that's one.
Walrus. Oh gosh, it's not very inventive, is it? I think
it's really not.
We need to have a kind of, a reset on nicknames, really. Anyway, moving on. So your job title must confuse your granddad a little bit, because I was like reading it out aloud to myself earlier when I was sort of painting the spare bedroom. Anthropological future designer. Can you explain what it means?
Barely. It was, so I think because I'd made such a point doing this master's that I really didn't know what I wanted to be doing.
Yeah.
And then I kind of had this logic of people go and they do this MA, but the point of doing an MA is to kind of become a bit more individual and really figure out what you're doing. And yet you've already picked your title at the beginning of doing the course. And then every year 100 product designers graduate, 100 illustrators graduate. And it kind of felt at points like it defeated the object when I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I kind of had this idea that I was just going to do these 4 projects, see what happens, see what the outcomes were, and then kind of use that to kind of reflect on what it was that I was trying to do and figure out, like, what are the common themes that run throughout. And there must be a way that I'm responding to these briefs that kind of is how I work.
Yeah.
And before I started, I genuinely didn't know what the word anthropological even was. So I'd never have predicted it in a sense. And then I kind of got to, and then 3 projects in, I was like, these projects are insane. Like, I don't understand how they all tie together. Maybe this is what happens when you do just go a bit rogue and create your own thing. And then kind of I hit the 4th and I was still like, I've actually no idea. None of this is making sense. And then I kind of like realised that actually all of these projects, what the real kind of crux is, it's looking at behaviour and it's looking at different communities and how they live and how they, what problems they're facing and how they kind of function, and but also really kind of listening and understanding the values of a community seems to have been how I've approached every single brief. But then on top of that, there's such an element of futures. None of the projects were based kind of in the here and now and problem solving. They all had this element of kind of storytelling and what if about them. So to me, it makes a lot of sense. This kind of like looking at behaviours, but what the future of them could be in all these different scenarios. But walking into kind of a job interview, you've got to really break it down and try and figure out actually what are the skills involved, what are the actual really tangible elements. But it was like a weird bit of like indulgent career therapy, if that makes sense.
No, it's great. I love it. You've kind of like done your own masters, you've created your own job title, and you've done all that by figuring out what it is that makes you happy, what makes you tick, and bring in all the skills.
I think it's a really good way of helping explain. I mean, however you look at my course, say, no one's ever going to be able to replicate that. And if I have a title that comes out at the end of it that is bespoke as the course, and we're talking about masters, I obviously don't have a real certificate or a real MA qualification. But if nobody else is an anthropological future designer, then am I the master of that?
Yeah, and absolutely.
It's just kind of trying to find these different ways of getting around things. The loopholes, I love a loophole.
Yeah, I like a loophole, and I like people who kind of apply themselves and can figure out their own path, because sometimes when you talk to people who haven't gone to university or didn't potentially do A-levels, or in some circumstances didn't quite finish their GCSEs because there was something going on in their life at the time, or it just didn't suit them, that kind of academic world. There's, not everybody does this, but there is always this dark sort of shadow that passes over the face, as if it's something to be ashamed of, something they didn't quite achieve, because it's drilled into us at such a young age, not necessarily by our parents, that we need to get these grades to progress. We need to do well. We need to have this. We need to go to university. It's this, and this, and it's all that pressure at such a young age. And really, when an employer looks at a CV, they're looking for evidence, more so these days, I think, of somebody applying themselves. I don't think people are too het up on what you got for your degree. I mean, I got a 2-2 because I didn't do any work. I mucked around and didn't appreciate what I had. But, I was going through a lot at the time. So I went out with a CV in the working world where I didn't reveal what I got. I just put that I'd got, a BA in journalism and blah, blah, blah. And nobody really batted an eyelid. It was just it was that tick for an employer, a quick kind of, okay, so they've done this, that's great, that reveals that. But it doesn't necessarily mean these days, especially, I think, that you need that higher education. As long as you've done something else, I suppose, that shows you've got that skill, those skills and the experience and the personality to walk in anywhere and say, right, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to apply myself, I'm keen. I mean, to be honest, when I used to employ people, that was the thing I looked for the most. Are they keen? Have they got the hunger? Are they creative? Are they going to be good at coming up with ideas? Have they got a nice personality? Could I put them in front of a client and know that they could talk confidently about the work they're producing? These kind of things are so important.
Yeah, exactly. And I think especially in like a creative industry, I mean, we're not talking about brain surgeons here where there is a right and a wrong. Yeah. It's all a bit subjective anyway. But if you can put some good ideas, some good work in front of people, no one's ever even asked me. I mean, they'll ask what uni you went to, but never have I been asked what I got. And I kind of that was the whole kind of, I mean, when I started this, I really, really didn't think it would go well. But because it was a selfish project when it started, and I was just doing it for myself. And all I could think was, if I walk into a room and I'm up against somebody else, and they've been able to afford and pay for this level of education, if I was employing these two people, would I give the job to somebody who's kind of, you know, rightfully worked for their education, but maybe had an easier path, or would I give it to the person that wanted it that much that they built their own anyway? And I just kind of thought, that's got to pull off at some point. I don't know how, but kind of showing how much I want it, and not just kind of moaning about stuff or, you know, starting discussions about how things aren't fair. If I can prove I can do it another way, then maybe I've got an argument for this whole stuff and this whole kind of alternative way of thinking, proving yourself, learning, the whole shebang.
Well, you're already winning with the very thing that you said there, you know, thinking about it from the perspective of the employer, the person who's actually going to give somebody a job, you know, which, you know, when we're young, we might not necessarily think about that. And you have, and it's great, because what you're doing there is saying, okay, what is this person who's looking for somebody to come and work with them? What are they looking for? What problems do they have? How can I add value? You know, these are all things that when you go for a job interview, you have to think about, because you're going to be up against so many other people who have potentially got degrees and have got, you know, first class honours, you know, and didn't muck about at university and end up with a 2-2, you know, and actually applied themselves. So it's a matter of figuring out that what you're going into and applying yourself in that way. And you can adapt that, can't you, to any job role that you go in and get. I think, do you think people have high expectations when they come out of university, that they're just going to sort of flop into a job and it's going to be the dream job at a big agency?
100%. I think every course, every level of course has that same reality check. And I think for people so young that have kind of, that you build yourself up to this moment of finishing that degree, and it's such an achievement and it's such a kind of milestone in everybody's life, to then be kind of like kicked out the door and thrown into an industry that's just ticking over anyway. They haven't had that same moment, that same milestone, that same kind of point to welcome you with open arms. They're just going along business as usual. And I think that's the gap that I really want Make Your Own Masters to work within, or any of the learning stuff I'm doing, because it's such a knock for a lot of young people, especially those that don't have that experience of kind of family members that have been to university, or people that are working in an industry that can tell them that first kind of, those first few months, that first drop afterwards is going to be rough, because and university doesn't necessarily build you up with the resilience to take all of those knocks. And it is, everybody I know is knock after knock after knock for a long time. And then when you eventually maybe get in somewhere, it's not what you expected, it's not what you wanted. But there's such a pressure that first year you've kind of achieved, and then that's it, you're ready to go into the big wide world and do all of these things. But the reality is it's a lot slower, it's a lot more difficult. And I think that's why, you know, there's so many people with degrees and really, really intelligent, talented people that end up kind of going home and working in a supermarket, because that first kind of rush out of the gate is so tough, and no one's prepared for it. No.
I look back when I was sort of just going out into the world, you know, 21, 22, just how did we cope? You know, I used to have to get a bus, an hour-long bus back to go to this job that paid, I think, $10,000 a year or something like that. It was my first job in journalism at a radio station. And then after that, I had to sort of go to Birmingham, but I couldn't afford to live in Birmingham initially. So I drove to Birmingham from Stoke every day, sometimes at 3 a.m, because I had the 5 a.m. till 12 p.m. shift, and I'm like, I'm going into a kind of, oh, you never had it so good, these young people these days. But I think we were never sort of really told when we graduated in 2000 how difficult it was initially going to be. But I think since then, in the last sort of, 21 years, I'm getting old. I think it's kind of, I think the expectations have shifted massively from what I've seen. That, kids coming out these days, they just sort of think, oh, it's going to be great. I'm going to be working there and everything's going to fall into place. And then when it doesn't, like you say, it can be a real crash back down to earth. And some people might not recover from that. And I guess if anyone's listening to this who've gone through that, don't give up hope, because, you can do something else. You can, maybe do a side project, perhaps that might get attention.
It's so tough. And I mean, I'm 26 now, and I've got a job with D&AD, but let's say that's my first real job. And I graduated when how old are you when you graduate? 22? I
was 22, 2000.
And I think and someone, I'm designing a few different learning programs and have kind of been in consultations for like different institutions trying to do stuff where you speak to a lot of people that have actually, because at the same time as me doing Make Your Own Masters, my friends around me were getting real jobs and they were getting real wages. Right. And I was still kind of constantly fumbling around. And one of the girls in one of the groups I was working in a few weeks ago kind of described that phase of kind of rejection as a rite of passage. And for the first time, I was like, that actually makes me feel so much better about this, because for so long you take it so personally. And then when she kind of was like, but that's what being in your very early 20s is. It is that rite of passage.
Bumpy ride.
That's when I was like, oh, I wasn't alone, and it wasn't personal. It was just kind of everyone has to put up with it.
We're taking a little break to get a word from our sponsor, Shillington, the original graphic design bootcamp, or in this case, some career advice from Jack Trotman, a designer and artist who's also a teacher at Shillington's campus in London. I asked Jack, any tips on portfolios and making sure they're the best possible representation of your work?
Me personally, my portfolio is an absolute state. So once you start working, you realise that you run out of time to even update your portfolio. So whilst you're looking for that work, I would make sure that your portfolio really tells a story, okay? So it's not just a collection of pieces of work. Me personally, if I'm seeing a portfolio, so, if someone's applying for a job where I am or to work with me, if that portfolio tells a story that's beyond a single project, it's kind of the project as a whole, it can tell me a story of who you are and really what makes you tick.
To find out more about studying graphic design at one of Shillington's 6 campuses around the world or via its online course, visit shillingtoneducation.com. Now, back to Stacie. Yeah, I mean, God, your early 20s are a bit of a mess. Lots of mistakes. I go bright red thinking about some of the things I did. I remember I used to take the radio car out to go on interviews around Birmingham, and it was petrol. And one day I put diesel in it, and my news editor, Colin Palmer, went absolutely nuts. But then there were other lovely times when it all sort of, came together and you realised you were learning. And so they were great times. And all the energy we had, well, say we, you're still 26.
Yeah, I know, but I do look back and I'm like, I actually have no idea how I did that. But not like it, to sound arrogant, but as in like what you were saying earlier of like, there was a point where I had 3 bar jobs, and I was kind of, so that I had to have a bar job every night to pay the rent in London to then go and do this fake masters in the day. And I just remember there was one day where I had this little Brompton bike that I'd got for really cheap off of eBay, And so the wheels are tiny, aren't they? And I'm living in like South London in Tulse Hill, and it was such a long cycle to get me to like the bar and to get me to Somerset House where I was working. And I remember one day it started raining as I was cycling home, and I was so tired, and it was like 2 a.m. and it started raining, and I just started crying. And I was just like, that's it, I've had enough, I can't do it anymore. And then the next day I rang my mum, and she was like, why don't you come home? I think you've had enough now. And I was like, Mum, you're not supposed to say that. You don't want me home. You've got to tell me to keep going. And she was like, well, keep going then. I was like, but I can't. And she was like, I don't know how to help you anymore.
Well, she brought you up to be strong stuff. And and you kind of realised probably in that moment that actually you're a human being and you're not a machine. And you have to sometimes just go, okay, I need to chill. But I know that. I used to work loads of bar jobs to get myself through university. And, you know, it was tough. And I think of that. I worked in so many different places, and I used to love doing bar work because you got to talk to people. And I found that became invaluable later on in my career, you know, being a journalist and talking to people like this, just having that sort of, you know, people skills, social skills. I mean, did you work in a bar in Doncaster when you were younger?
I've done every side, every kind of like job there is going. I worked in this club called Coco's, which was like a disco floor, mirrored ceiling kind of place. I was an ice cream woman for years, me and my sister.
Wow. Great.
We sold like radios outside of rugby games. I can't think what else. We've just done some stupid stuff. But yeah, definitely like the people skills you get definitely help. I ended up, the best job I ever had was that there's now a bar in the basement of Somerset House for like members, and it's only a really tiny bar. But I'd been working in Somerset House for 2 years by this point and just didn't speak to people. I'm really, really bad at kind of just like introducing myself, or that idea of networking doesn't sit well.
Yeah.
But then put me behind the bar and I had something to talk about, or a bit of an opener. Yeah. And you make friends, and then you kind of get to know people, and people are willing, then they want to know actually why you're there when they see you're not at the bar, and then you kind of get talking. And my friend started at Make-A-Verse, and she was like, oh my God, you're so popular here. I was like, 2 years it's taken me to make these friends. I was like, don't you come in here and think it's that easy.
Yeah, exactly. Because it is all about people, isn't it? It's making those connections, and even I remember watching your amazing, excellent video of your experience of creating Make Your Own Masters, and you said that you built up such a fantastic network just by doing that. You know, I mean, I'm not putting all of this down to your experience working behind a bar, but you know, it's got to help. You're a people person, definitely. I can tell. What do your parents do? You were saying you were the first to go to university in your family.
My mum, I don't actually know what she does. Something to do with apprenticeships and getting people apprenticeships.
Wow.
And my stepdad builds stuff. We should talk more, is what I'm learning.
Yeah.
We should really figure out what everyone's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Mine are retired now. They're living the life of, you know, and my mum's just like, I'll sort of message her and say, I've got this today. And my mum's like, oh, I was thinking about going out into the garden and tidying things up. And you know, I'm not envious of them. They worked really, really hard their whole lives and didn't do much travelling, bless them. But yeah, it's interesting to know where people get this kind of, you know, energy from. Were they always was your mum always telling you, was she always saying, you've got to go for it, kid? Was she sort of like pushing you to go to university, or?
It wasn't ever a push. It was always, whatever you want to do it. There was never any like, there was never pressure. There was never like, you need to get these grades, you need to do this. It was always, as long as you tried your best, that's all that matters.
It's great.
And I think like there was a point where, you know, when you have to start making the decisions around kind of like what you're going to do at A levels and what you're going to do. And I went to visit this sixth form, and they had, you could take 4 art subjects, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to do art. And I remember the teachers at my school being like, I think she should do something academic as well. And then the teachers at the new school being like, I think you need an academic subject in there. And then my friends would be like, well, what are you going to do with that? You need at least, I remember my friends being the worst, being like, you do maths, you need to do maths. Or, well, you need to do English then if you like stories, or like all of this stuff. And I was just, and my mum just went, but if you know that's what you want to do and you know it's art, why not just do art?
Yeah, exactly.
And I was just like, well, is that all right then? And she was like, yeah, it's obviously the best thing to do. So it was always kind of like, there was never any pressure of like, where's it going to get you? What kind of job you're going to get out of that? It was, you've only kind of got one life, chase what you want to do kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, the backup, I'll just be an art teacher. That's all
great.
Anyone ever says in Donny, like, well, why don't you just become an art teacher then?
Well,
I'll be a very bad one.
Oh, come on. Art teachers are great. Art teachers change people's lives. They make people realise they're creative.
Yeah, that's why I think that it's. I'd actually would. No, I'm lying. I'd actually love it. I know I would.
Yeah.
But that's maybe the retirement plan.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we've all got that kind of thing in mind. Okay, if this doesn't work, we'll do that. So you must get the same satisfaction from seeing people who go on your programme and get, something really good out of it. How's it been over the last year of this crazy world of pandemic? I mean, I bet it's changed, but also I bet you were really well set up for it anyway.
Yeah, it's been really weird because so when I decided I was going to carry the programme on kind of past myself and take on these 10 learners, I've always been I always really wanted this to not just be a London thing, to be a thing, because for me that I actually think that that's a huge barrier. Like, not everybody can move to London, and not everybody wants to uproot from where they're from, or some people are carers and they physically can't, and yet that means that they just don't get the opportunities. So I was always quite like, it doesn't matter where you are, you can do it. And then as time kind of like rolled on and I just wasn't getting funding, and the reality was that I was going to just have to do it anyway because I'd opened my mouth and said I was going to do it. and then I kind of realised, well, I need to keep it as small as possible and as manageable as possible. And so it did just become kind of, I was in London, 10 people that I could meet with, that I could kind of really ask and kind of get to know and really kind of understand what we were trying to do. And because I think it's actually quite weird to think how much we weren't digital before this now.
Yeah,
and how much, if I'd have proposed this as an online learning thing, I actually don't think many people would have been up for it. I think they'd have been put off straight away. So I kept it to the 10 in London, and then we kicked off in January, but the programme doesn't really start until March. The stuff in January is just getting them to help to build their structure and find some briefs and all of that stuff. So the minute we kind of really kicked off to start learning in March, it was straight... Oh, was it? So yeah, it was. It was straight lockdown. I'm trying to think, but and then
can't remember what it was now.
Yeah, and then it became very digital very quickly.
Yeah,
but it's worked, I think, because they didn't have a space to go. Well, they did have spaces at this point, but they couldn't go to them, and we've had to do the learning online, and we've had to do it remote, and it's worked out easier. I think all it's done is kind of help prove that how I'd like this to work and how I'd like it to open up is possible. And people are just actually open to it now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you'll be learning from it as well. And it will have accelerated, I suppose, a lot of things as well, which is great because it's just forced you into trying out new things that maybe you had on the back burner, but now are kind of like, boom, have come to a head. And I suppose, I guess like all of these people, they probably found that a bit of a lifeline these last 12 months as well, because it's just been so isolating, but to have like a purpose and to have like a little community as well of people all looking out for each other, that has probably been, a saving grace.
Yeah, I hope so. And like a few have mentioned it, that it's been a real kind of pull through to kind of still have something to work on, and in some cases have more time. There was like a point last summer where they were all starting to kind of crumble, and everyone was having a little bit of a meltdown. And they were like, and then it's just worse because of the pandemic. And I was like, actually, I don't think we can blame the pandemic. I was like, I think everything you're experiencing is just make your own masters, because I've been there. I was like, I'd love to blame COVID. I was like, but I think this is how difficult it is to do this stuff on your own.
Yeah, definitely. I think, it has been challenging this last 12 months. But if you're going to apply yourself and do something this intense in a short amount of time, it's never really going to be easy. But at least they are now facing this kind of, we're coming out of lockdown slowly but surely up till June. There's all this kind of story back and forth about the economy and everything. And really, they're sort of now entering this world of ours with kind of this huge amount of, skills and experience behind them. So you must be really proud of yourself for giving them this opportunity.
It's really, like, I think they're all going to start to get really stressed and really worried, but we're putting on a final kind of degree show in July.
Great.
And it's so nice to see, like, we have work breaks, so there are like these 2-month periods where we don't have any contact at all, and they can go off and earn some more money to kind of support themselves through the times they're learning. And they came back beginning of March to this kind of last push, let's call it a term, 4 or 5 months. And I really thought, I was like, God, I'm going to have to really ramp up the motivation here. Like, we've been in lockdown for so long, and they're so tired, and now deadlines are creeping up. But they came back with like we're doing it now. Like, we've not got long. We've got something to prove. Like, they set the dates for when we can come out of lockdown. They were lining up with when we were going to try and come out with all this work. And like, there's an energy of like, right, come on then, let's show them. And I mean, I was going to say, hopefully they'll pull it off, but I know they'll pull it off, but I think it's them doubting themselves.
Yeah, which we all go through, which I'm sure you had yourself when you were doing this and going through this process. And you just find the strength from somewhere, don't you? You say, well, actually, I can do this. No one's going to stop me.
Yeah. I think there was a point before my degree show where I remember sitting around just going for a break with my friend around the corner. I was like, I think I was like, I started this, I think, with a bigger set of balls than I've got now. I was like, I actually have no idea how I'm going to pull this off. And she's so like kind of relaxed and laid back, and she was like, you'll be fine. It's all going to be fine. And I was like, that's not advice. That's just words. I was like, I need some kind of real, what am I going to do stuff. And she was like, should we just have a drink? I think that's going to fix everything.
Yeah.
It didn't, but it did help.
Well, this is the thing. When we start off and we're young, we don't yet know all of the things that can go wrong. So we probably have a bit more courage and a bit more kind of spirit. And then we sort of go out into the real world, and we're kind of, we get knocked back and all these things happen to us. And then we start to doubt ourselves. And it's like, you've got to fight that, and you've got to hold on to that kind of young spirit, because when you get to 42, like me, you can have moments where you crash and burn and you're like, oh my God. And then you can become stuck as well. You can become creatively stuck, and you're like, oh, I've achieved everything now, or I've done pretty well. And what am I going to do next? Oh, it's all over for me. And yeah, you've got all that to come, Stacie. So
I can feel it creeping in. I can feel it like, I don't think I could do it again. Sometimes I look back and I'm like, how on earth did I it's not pull it off is the word I'm looking for. It's like, have the guts. I'm already starting to lose them. I actually think I dished out a lot of guts on that project that I won't get back.
Oh, well, I think you are going to definitely be doing very much more interesting and surprising things over the length of your career, Stacie. And I don't think you'll be an art teacher in the next sort of decade, but it's great to see you doing something you love and carving your own path. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me and my Tales of the North.
You've been listening to the Creative Boom podcast with your host, Katie Cowan. Thanks to our sponsor Shillington, the original graphic design bootcamp that has helped students achieve award-winning portfolios and land incredible jobs in as little as 3 months. To find out more, go to shillingtoneducation.com. To listen or subscribe to the Creative Boom podcast, visit creativeboom.com/podcast. And if you're enjoying the show, please let us know on any of our socials or by leaving us a review. Join me next time when my guest will be graphic designer and art director, Luke Tong.